Sarah. Welcome to the Revitalize Womanhood podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited that we can make this work. It's so funny because even this morning I was like, oh, because my husband's out of town hunting. And I'm like,
Mhm.
if I text her and said, I'm having a mom life moment, she would totally understand.
100%.
I'm like, at least it's those people that it's like, no, it's not happening. Or like you saying you had a cold the last time we tried to schedule something. And it's
hmm
like, I get it. I totally get it. It's no big deal. So I'm glad that we finally got together.
Me too.
And let me tell you why this is so important that you are recording with me right now.
Okay.
So, my monthly topics, I'm thinking of doing a 2 month spread, like April showers bring May flowers kind of a vibe, right?
hmm
So, for April, getting rid of all the negative, detox, purge, right? We have to get rid of the bad to start new, right? To
Yes.
plant the seed to grow the beautiful flower. So, it's all going to be about self love, self confidence, like really strengthening that foundation to the
hmm
point where you're actually, because my problem with it is you can pretend to have self-confidence. You can fake it. I think it would be
Yeah.
exhausting, but I want my members, I want listeners to actually believe it,
hmm
right?
Yes.
So why don't you just begin by introducing yourself? You've got a lot of different aspects of your life that I love.
Yes. There's a lot to me, just like an onion, layer by layer by layer. So I am a certified self-care life coach, and there has been a lot of things and a lot of stories that have happened in my life through chronic illness, through postpartum depression and anxiety, just a lot of different stepping stones that have allowed me to kind of be where I am today. And it was honestly, I love how you said like just that letting go, like April showers bring May flowers, that it's like there are constant storms in our lives, and it is all about perspective, right? For me, during those storms that I was going through sickness, and kind of just to give you a little snippet, but I was on my period for 13 months without stopping. And like I had started passing out. I got so incredibly sick, and I was on bed rest for a period of time. And I remember laying in bed on one of those moments, but it was a pivotal moment for me that it was like, I am not in control of my life the way that I want to be. Other people are telling me how to live my life, what I need to do, what medicines I need to be taking. And even though I trust that, I was losing so much trust in myself in the process because I wasn't listening to my internal energetic system. And so that was a moment for me that was like, okay, I am tired of living this life. I am. I cannot rely on anybody else to change it except me. I'm the one that is in charge. And so that was one moment for me that was like, okay, how do I change this? How do I be who I really want to be? And that was a huge moment for me, realizing I did not care for myself. I did not love myself. I could hardly look in the mirror at myself. And I just, honestly, it was a lot of self betrayal and abandonment that I was experiencing, which also ties into a lot of inner child stuff that I also had experienced. Um, and so that's kind of what has led me to where I am, and kind of similar experience with postpartum depression and anxiety, that after you go through a transition with any newborn, with really any big thing, even if you were to move or things, you go through a transition. And I never like to call it an identity crisis, but I love to call it just an identity expansion. Like who is it that you are wanting to be? How are you trying to find that person? And I hear a lot of moms, and I'm just going to start out with this because it's so crucial. A lot of moms say, like, I've lost myself in motherhood. I just need to find myself, right? I always pose the question, what if it's not about finding yourself, but reinventing yourself? Because that's what you have to do. You can't go back. You cannot go back and change the past. at all. But what you can do is rediscover new things that you like, who you are, and reinvent who you want to be. And all of that will come into alignment. And that's where that self-love comes and that self-confidence. It takes courage before confidence. And that's where I always say that is it just, you have to have courage first, courage to take the first step, courage to say no, courage to do something different. And that's what actually is going to build self-confidence and self-trust. So that's a little background. I know. Sorry to start out like with a bang, but
Like,
here we go.
yeah. Okay, thanks. Drop the mic. We'll see you later. That was a great episode, guys. So good. So good. I'm just sitting here just like, uh-huh. Uh-huh. I'm actually okay, we'll get into this more, listeners, but Sarah does these sound baths, like a night of stillness. And now like listening to you just talk, that I could play that as my meditation. Like your voice is so soothing. And I'm sitting here like, yeah, I can see this. I can see how this happens. Like, I
Yeah.
just walked down that journey with you.
Yep.
So good. I love that. I'm finding out through creating this. So created this community. The actual Revitalized Sisterhood began in October, but the birth of it, the beginning of it was July of last year. And since I've started this, I mean, I've always been an advocate for women loving themselves, right? I've
Mhm.
always been an advocate for self care and self love is not vanity,
Right.
right? It's a self appreciation. It's right. And so, but now doing this, I am really, really becoming an advocate for self confidence and seeing yourself the way that others see you, right? And unburying those gifts and those amazing parts of you that in all of our different, the metamorphoses of women that we change into 5,000 butterflies throughout our lives, right? You do, like you said, you, I guess, lose yourself, but it is like a butterfly. It's not a, yeah, it's a reinvention. You turn in because of this experience. You are never going to be that same person again, ever. So yeah, when people grieve their past selves, like, oh, I want to go out to with my girlfriends more, whatever. And it's like, guess what? That's gone. You are
Yeah.
now this person. So start to realize the good things that are now living in the now, like the friends that have kids your kids' age and get together with them and make, it's the finding the beauty in the new person that you are, right?
Mhm.
I really
Yeah.
love that. So I'm not going to get into your book yet. I actually want to go back as far as the reason also that I wanted to talk to you was if you would share with us about, and I don't know which one came first, if your postpartum experience was after your miscarriage or
Mhm.
with a different baby before your miscarriage, which just let's go to wherever you want to start on that journey, because as women, we all think that we're so unique and we experience these things
Mhm.
alone, right? We feel
Yeah.
so alone in things. And it's only through sharing our stories and talking about them that you can help others realize, okay, I feel the same way. Thank you. I'm glad I'm not alone, right?
Yes. Okay. This is something that I am so passionate about because I do believe that vulnerability is what is going to bring change. And when it comes, so I have two kids, a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I had postpartum depression with my last one. I'm currently 34 weeks pregnant, so we'll have another one, but I'm much more skilled with the things that I need to help me if that happens again. Um, so I had postpartum depression terribly. And the thing is, I've never struggled with depression. I've always had friends that had previously, and it was so abnormal for me. And my husband was actually the one that really started noticing these things. Like, I've always loved getting ready, I've always loved doing my hair and makeup. And slowly, even during pregnancy, I stopped doing those things. And my husband was like, what? Like, what's going on? but we weren't educated on what to really look for. And, part of that was us, but
Well,
a
and
lot of it,
I didn't realize it starts during pregnancy. I
yeah,
didn't realize that. That was news to
yeah,
me when I was reading your book. I'm like, "Oh, okay."
yep. It 100% can start during pregnancy, and people don't see the signs because we think when someone says postpartum, it's after you have that baby, right? And only that year after you have a baby. But I share, and this was something that was so crazy to me, that you can actually have postpartum depression, anxiety, psychosis, any sort of postpartum almost up to 6 years after having a baby. And a lot of uh, healthcare professionals will just treat it as depression or overall anxiety, when in reality, it's all going to be hormone based because of postpartum and the evolution that your body has actually happened. And so that was something that my therapist actually was the one who had said, like, when did this actually start? And I had to think about it and process it. And it was when I was pregnant. Honestly, when I first found out I was pregnant, because I did not feel ready. I had all of these emotions set in that as much as I just love children, I did not feel ready. And I had a very hard time my entire pregnancy connecting with my baby. I had thought, oh, if I just have the baby and I just hold her, then I will connect with her and bond with her in the way I've been praying for. And that didn't happen after the baby. I get so emotional about it now because I remember, like, well, okay, even pictures I can scroll back on and I don't remember. I just don't. I was so checked out. Um, but I also remember those moments where I would just look at her and I wouldn't want to feed her. I wouldn't want to hold her. I was just so almost like resentful towards her. And then, of course, that brought resentment towards myself. So it's that cycle that I shared at the beginning of this self betrayal and this self abandonment. It had nothing to do with my baby and had everything to do with me and my response and what I was doing and dealing with. And so after that, we had gotten hormones checked, all of that. And I still get my hormones checked about every 6 months with a hormone specialist just because of my body and my prior health challenges. But I've figured it out. I trying to get the help that I have needed. Um, and I think because of my experience, I knew I wasn't alone. I've heard other people talk about it, but people are afraid. People are afraid to talk about the hard because of judgment or just because it puts them in such a vulnerable place, right? Um, and this is kind of how my book came to be, if you don't mind me sharing that.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Uh,
Yes.
so I had walked to the mirror one morning after I was done breastfeeding, and I just was crying and crying because I looked in my eyes and I didn't even recognize who was looking back at me. Like I couldn't see who I was anymore. And that's where that phrase, right? I lost myself in motherhood comes. It's because I didn't know the things that brought me joy. I was doing the mundane every single day in and day out, same routine. I wasn't having fun. I was so bored with life, even though I was constantly busy. It just was so heavy. And I looked at her and I literally asked myself, I said, "Where are you?" And my mom came. It was that time where my mom was still helping out and all this stuff. My mom came and walked past me. She's like, "Are you okay, honey?" And I said, "No, I'm not." And she was like, "Okay, well, let's like figure this out." I said, "I just don't know who I am." And she's like, "Well, you'll find yourself. You'll find yourself in motherhood." And I never understood that until now, that it's like, no, you actually do. You rediscover yourself in motherhood. You don't lose yourself in motherhood, but you really do find yourself in motherhood because it really shapes so much of who you are and everything you strive for. And so it really is really powerful. But I remember after that experience, after that mirror experience, I remember going to my bedside and just praying and crying. Like there was at this point there was nothing I could control. And I think that was something hard for me because I like control. Who doesn't? Who doesn't like to be in control of their life? And I didn't feel like I had any control. And I just pleaded with God. I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, I'm not asking why am I going through this, but what am I supposed to learn from this? Because I'm not learning anything, and I'm not seeing what I'm supposed to be seeing and growing. And that was when the thought came to me, you're going to write a book to help other women. And I laughed because I was like, no, I'm not. I have no credentials to write a book. I have never written a book. Yes, I totally loved English and excelled in that in high school and college. But like English and writing, like, no, I'm not going to write a book. And I battled it for quite a few weeks until we were camping. And it was my sister-in-law and my husband. We were around a little campfire. Everyone had gone to bed. And that was honestly my first like trip out of the house that my mom was like, we just got to get you out in nature. We know that that is what helps you. And so we were sitting around the campfire, and I just, like there's something about flames and playing in the dirt and the night sky. Like if you're an outdoor person, you know what I mean? It's just peaceful and beautiful. And I love it so much. But I had told them, I said, I'm going to write a book about postpartum depression and anxiety. I'm going to write a book about the very things that have helped me to get out of it, to get through it. Not even get out of it, but get through it. Because you can't get out of it without actually going through it. And they said, okay. And my husband looked at me. He said, I will support you if that's what you want to do. And he did. Like, we got help. I started writing. And it was so important and crucial for me because I missed this important part, because I had a lot of suicidal ideation, and it was really scary a lot of times where I felt like I'm going to leave. I'm never going to come back. I'd rather be dead than being alive. Like, they deserve somebody better. And there was one attempt where I was on a run with my sister and my friend, and I was counting the cars before the car that I was going to jump in front of. And I physically felt like I had stepped off the curb, and I physically felt hands push me away, and I just sat down and cried. And I guess I kind of stumbled down, and I started bawling, and my sister and friend were running ahead of me, and they looked back, and my sister knew something wasn't okay. So she came running back to me, and I got back up, started running, and she was just like, are you okay? And I was like, no, I'm not. I really need help. And then she called my mom, and that's kind of when everything escalated. And my husband was like, yeah, I know she needs help. I just don't know how to help. And so, yeah, so that's kind of my story, of,
Ooh.
yeah, a lot. I know it's a lot. Mind blowing
Oh, now
and
I'm like,
kind of
where are my
heavy.
tissues? I don't have any in here. I,
It
holy
is.
cow. Like, okay, but when you were saying all of this, all I kept thinking was, okay, so I didn't realize it happens during pregnancy, right? I did find out that from someone else sharing their story as well, that yes, it can be come and go up to 6 years.
Mhm.
I mean, whatever, right?
Yeah,
I'm sure there's still not even enough research on this.
right.
And um and I thought, how lucky that your husband noticed, because you weren't noticing, you weren't
Mhm.
identifying it. And in most cases, that's what you think about with postpartum, is that
Right.
you're not able to identify it. You're not, and then all of a sudden it's bad, right? Something
Mhm.
bad has happened, something terrible has happened, or injury to yourself or injury to children, or, you hear about all of these things, but it's not always that. And to be able to, I don't know how to at least know yourself well enough, and luckily your husband knows you well enough, to
Mhm.
say something's not right, something is going on, because I think the most important part of it is identifying it.
100%. Yep.
It's so for me it was let me tell you my story now.
Yeah.
So for me, I had two boys, like vaginal deliveries, totally easy pregnancies. I mean, just whatever, like normal, bing, bang, boom, had two
Mhm.
babies. Well, then I had a 6-year gap, 5-year gap between my newest baby. My newest baby, we came home from traveling just before COVID, actually, and with the intentions of getting pregnant again. And
Mhm.
at this time, I'm 38, right? So the whole joke about it was geriatric pregnancy and whatever. Ha ha ha. We made a big joke about it. But now I'm starting to think that, yeah, it's not such a joke because I, all of a sudden with this baby, completely different pregnancy. Things were
Mhm.
happening that like you couldn't make this stuff up, things that were happening. And I had morning sickness and I had, I mean, I would have gone to Vegas and said it was a girl because it was so completely different, right? So then 18 hours of labor, my body does not remember how to have a baby whatsoever, and into an emergency C-section, right?
Mhm.
So trauma, stress, right? Your poor body, along with being older and not having a baby for a while, whatever. And I remember sitting there in the recovery room after waking up finally from recovering and waking up and looking over at his little, the little clear, all you moms know, the little clear crib. And just, I loved him and I was so excited for him, but I was not like, it was like a numbness, right?
Yes.
It was like, huh. And for me, that's super weird because I had all of this, like, because my Pure Imperfection, I have an Instagram that is like a sponsored and collaborations, and I do these things. So I had lots of brands sending me things, and lots of that I'd worked with before. Congratulations! Here's some new outfits. Here's some whatever. So of course,
Yeah.
in that life, that I'm waiting to have the perfect. I've got his little nameplate. Hello, my name is right. I've got
Mhm.
his little outfit to swaddle him in, and his little blanket, and I've got this picture that I'm going to take. Right? I know that that's going to happen. That's me. And I
Mhm.
sat there and I was like, nope, nothing. Nothing's going to happen. And I don't remember crying, but I had to have been because the nurse said, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I don't want to do this." I explained it to her and I'm like, "I don't want to. Like, there is nothing in me that will move me out of this bed to
Yeah.
do that." And she's like, "Well, I'll do it." And she started just doing it for me. And where's the outfit? And where's this? And I just kind of told her and showed her, and she took pictures. And I think back and I'm like, I identified it. I
Mhm.
knew at that moment, I thought, holy crap, this is postpartum depression. What do
Yes.
you know?
Mhm.
And I identified it. And so luckily, I was actually voicing it to my husband, saying, I have this. This is
Mhm.
weird. Like, I do not feel normal. I do not feel like myself. And him, of course, he's like, okay, so what do you do? What do you want me to do? Bless his heart. He's like, are you going
Hey.
to harm the baby? And I'm like, no. And so when I got home, it was like my bed became an island. It was me and this baby, and all I wanted to do was lay in bed and nurse this baby. And I did not. My two other boys, luckily he had them, but it was like, just leave us alone. I want nothing to do with anything. This is
Mhm.
us. That's you. We're completely separate, right?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I don't even know how long it had been, but I finally thought to myself, if I do not get up, and because I was really scared, I was
Mhm.
scared. I have a C-section. I can't move. I was really, really scared, creating all of these stories in my head of, you will not be able to take this baby out. It won't be as easy as your other kids. You can't lift a stroller out. What are you going to do? Right. And I remember thinking, if you don't just get out of this house right now, you are going to become one of those people that never leaves the house.
Yeah.
Right. And so the fear of that outweighed the fear, what was keeping me stuck. And
Yeah.
I have a picture of it. And every time I will look at that picture now and know how I felt in that moment, that if I didn't get out of that house, I would have become one of those people that never does.
Mhm.
And I just put on whatever I could, right? Hat, because of course whatever. And I said, I'm going to do this. I have to do this and show myself that I can do this, because the
Mhm.
stories are getting pretty bad in my head that you can't do anything, right?
Right.
And I have a picture of at Kohl's, just went to Kohl's, and I've got just whatever on, and the stroller and the car seat and the mask, because, it was like when we could finally be out, but still had masks on.
The worst.
And I took a picture because I remember thinking to myself, I want to remember this moment. Like,
Mhm.
but still, that was my, thank goodness I pushed myself, but still he turned 2 on Thanksgiving last year.
Yeah.
So we're just over 2 years and I still feel anxiety all the time. I still don't feel any motivation like I normally, like
Right.
I'm comparing myself to the old me. So
Hmm.
I know what I'm talking about when I'm trying to say the things. It's I'm not here telling you to do things, right? I'm not just
Right.
some person like, you need to do this. I am a person that's telling myself, you need to do this. And it happens to be going out through a microphone and
Yes.
maybe someone else will hear it,
Yeah.
right?
I you said a few things that I just want to like reiterate because I think it's so important. Because when we this is a phrase, or you could say affirmation, that has really helped me, because we do have a lot of that fear that comes. Like, it just, fear is there to protect us because it doesn't want us to get hurt, right? And this phrase, perfect love and acceptance casteth out fear. And it's like, scripture and spiritual like mingled, but it's like not at the same time. Perfect love and acceptance casteth out that fear. And you identified, but not just identified, because it's one thing for us to identify what we're going through, but it's another thing to accept what we're going through and accepting where we are, how we are, and being okay with that. Like, that's where that embodiment of self-love comes. Um, Self-acceptance, actually. So self-acceptance truly is the first step of love, self-love, because self-acceptance is honoring where you are when you're weak, when you're strong, honoring the good, the bad, the ugly, and accepting that, and accepting those parts of you, because they're all needed. They really are all needed. And then that is what is going to build that self-love, is once that acceptance comes and that identity, really, that identification of acceptance comes, then that's where that self-love is going to start being built. And it is, like, the other thing I really wanted to point out is, like, you took action, right? You were like, this fear is going to take over my life and I don't want this. Like, I don't want to be a potato on the couch and just like not like having my whole personality change. And that's how it was for me. Like, I did not want to be with other people, which is so opposite of who I am. I've always been a social butterfly, and I found myself not texting back, not messaging people, not even wanting to be on Instagram. Like, 100%, I was just like avoidant of everyone and everything. And that's when I started noticing, I'm like, I'm changing and I don't like who I'm changing into. And you took that action. You're like, I'm going to get out. I'm going to put on whatever fits me because postpartum,
Oh, I totally had on
right?
my Depends underwear and
Yes.
like it was okay, these leggings will go over that.
And it's
They're big
fine.
enough.
Yeah, and it's fine, but you took that action, and that's where that acceptance comes in. And then there's like this little piece of, so self-acceptance, and then this sandwich of self-care comes in, and self-love. And it's like self-acceptance, self-care, self-love. It is literally a timeline, and that's where you can really focus on the actions that you're taking. And every action that you take, allow it to be a self-care action. You went out because you knew, A, you needed to get outside. You put on whatever you felt comfortable in, even though it wasn't what you ideally would want. And then you went to a place that probably like you enjoyed shopping at, Kohl's, right? So,
Yeah, I was just like, I gotta just go somewhere. Like
yes,
I just need to
just
go.
go. So that's where that like little piece is, that's where we show kindness and compassion to ourselves within that self-care. And that's how that self-love is built. That's when that confidence comes in, because you took that action of courage. Remember how I said that at the very beginning? You took that courage. Courage is what brings you that confidence. And um, I'm going to share just one little other piece, but during my postpartum phase, I had a lot of anxiety attacks and panic attacks. And it was in 2020s, right? So I'm sure Well, actually, statistically, a lot of therapists have actually found that there's been a huge influx of postpartum depression and anxiety because of 2020.
Oh my
And
gosh, yeah. Can you imagine all the stress, ladies? I mean, anybody else, because there is. It's like the baby boom. All of a
yep,
sudden, we've got all these new babies, and all of us women that were dealing with, do I get the shot? I don't know. I remember
yep,
getting the vaccine. I didn't want it. I didn't
right.
want it at all. And I got it because we were leaving the country. And so I had to get it.
Yeah.
And I was pregnant. And I remember I stood up. She says, "You need to wait here for 15 minutes and so I can watch you." And I literally stood right up and walked. I was crying. I'm like, I stood up out of Albertsons, walked out crying, just bawling.
Oh.
I'm like 7 months pregnant or whatever, just like, what have I done? I've just given my baby an extra arm or whatever, like,
Uh-huh.
or a heart defect or, so of course. And then you go in to have the baby and they're all like swabbing you. That's when I realized, I'm like, what are you even talking about? I said, "So do you need my husband to come in?" This was weeks before my delivery date. Weeks. And I'm like, you're swabbing me now. Oh, okay. So can't
Okay.
I get it between now and then? Like, okay. And then I'm like, "Oh, so does my husband have to come in?" And they're like, "No, he's fine." And I'm like, "Wait a minute. So why do I have to do it?" So, like all of this stuff and the stress behind that, the
Mhm.
poor moms having the babies, I definitely think that was that them and the poor kids that had to wear masks in school. But I
Yes.
think that was the most traumatic stuff that's happening in your subconscious that you don't realize is happening, right? So
Yeah.
I agree with you.
No, it is like it just has heightened so many other ailments or diseases, right?
Mm-hmm.
But going back to this, I had very bad panic attacks and anxiety attacks. Like I wanted to go out to a store, but I couldn't even bring my kids into going into a store. That's where I'm like, I have two kids and I just would get so much into my head of how to navigate. How am I going to like put the kids in the cars, like in the cart? And is someone going to come and take my other kid? Like I would feed myself all of these fearful thoughts to the point where I would call my husband and be crying because I couldn't actually even go to the store and go grocery shopping. Like, however, I don't want to focus on like what I couldn't do. What I want to focus on is that courage to get to what I could do. And that's all it took is just that initial choice of I don't want my life to be this way. I don't want to kill my children. I'm sorry that sounds like so um harsh, but like I had thoughts like that and it's scary. And for any moms that are listening, if you've experienced that, like you are not alone in that. You are not. And I want you to get that help that you deserve. That's the thing. We all deserve to get help and we all deserve to be in a completely different place than we are right now. Like even if you are in a good place, you deserve to be in an even better place. And it takes that courage. It takes knowing yourself and that acceptance and just being so self aware of who you are. And I don't know. I just felt like I wanted to share that it really does come back to courage.
Yeah, no, I love that. So let's give a little, if you wouldn't mind, let's give a little like uh, snippets or sneak peeks or teasers to your Love Yourself course.
Okay.
So I want to, so tell me a little bit about it, but then let's work on some actionable steps for these ladies. I mean, let's just boom. First thing we're going to do. So go ahead and tell us about your Love Yourself course.
Okay. So my course, uh, I love it, first of all. It's like my baby. But everything that I offer is in my course. So, with my course, you get one-on-one coaching with me, and we do a lot of inner child healing within that because I don't believe you can really catapult into your future without going back and healing those parts that have needed attention and love and compassion. And so we do a lot of inner child healing work within the course, and it's all one-on-one based. For me, the course is like, it's actually very spiritual. And so the work that I do, I don't believe like one modality is a one size fits all. So I use a lot of different modalities in coaching. So EFT tapping, if you've ever heard of that, I use my breath work, I use sound, I use like so many things depending on what I am feeling is needed for that specific spirit. Um, and then we do group coaching, and that's where I think a lot of the connection comes in. We all need connection, and that's where the relation comes in as well, of knowing, oh my gosh, my story is completely different, but yet I still relate and I see you. And so we do group coaching, and then at the end of these 12 weeks working together, we do a retreat. And I think it's so beautiful. I used to host bigger retreats with like 30 people, and I have cut that down because I'm like, the intimacy within the retreats and the group, the course is so special. Like, it is so amazing. But we get to come together and kind of celebrate the work that has been done and the change and the transformation that's been done within these women. And it is a huge passion. I want to say like passion project, but that's probably not the right phrase. It's a very special work for me. And that's kind of what is entailed in my course. It's different. Every round is different just based off of the needs of the ladies. So
I
it's,
love that you brought that up, especially because my retreat's coming up,
yeah.
my second retreat, and that is my whole philosophy is our community, right? Community.
Mhm.
I don't care if you're in my community. I don't care if you're in your community. I don't care if you're in this community or that community. It's someone
Yeah.
speaks to you, right? And you're going to resonate with certain people. So if
Mhm.
I'm not the right person for this, let's find you the right person. I'm kind of like a bridge person anyway, but
Yes.
um let's find you the right people because community is so important. I 100% believe that. And so in my community, same as what you're saying is I mean, yeah, maybe one day I'll do a huge event where it's like tons of people, but then the point of that event will not be what these retreats are to me. It is smaller groups, just like in our community, we have squads
Hmm.
and they'll never be more than like 6 women, right? Because what can those 6 women do together is just unbelievable. And
Yes.
it is different with men. I think men do well enough with bigger groups and can bounce things off each other and do so well.
Mhm.
But I think women thrive when they can get that real connection and real trust with specific women, right?
Yep. I agree 100%. And here's a little, so my husband and I are my husband's getting certified in breath work and everything like that, because he has struggled with like postpartum stuff. And the men don't talk about it. Men don't talk about their mental health. They really don't. And so my husband is wanting to start doing couples retreats. We've done some in the past, but that's kind of where we're going now, is like couples working on it as a couple and working on your mental health together so that you can grow in affection towards each other instead of growing apart. Really powerful. So
I love it. Ooh, I
creating a
love that.
community in your home and then outside of your home and all of that. It's needed. It's so needed.
I love it. So is that so would you say that so your book Finding Diamonds in the Rough
Hmm.
is like a self-help workbook, right?
Yes.
It's
Yep.
so it in that where especially I'm going to try in the next couple months to really cement in these women finding self-love, right? The third,
Hmm.
what you said, the third stage, because
Yep.
so first we need self-acceptance, then self-care, then self-love. So where do they begin? Where do these women begin with self-acceptance?
Okay. This literally is like, people think it's so stupid, but this is where to start. And it's going to the mirror.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You have to go to the mirror. And this is going to be so vulnerable and uncomfortable for a lot of people. But standing in front of the mirror naked, because you can't be more vulnerable than your naked self, and say to yourself, looking at your eyes instead of looking at your stretch marks and looking at what needs to be changed or this, that, your Botox or whatever, not looking at the things on the outside, but literally staring into your eyes for the first time, probably in a long time for a lot of people, and telling yourself, I love you. We say that so many times throughout the day to our kids, to our spouse. But when was the last time you actually said that to yourself? Looking at yourself and acknowledging that to you. So that's why I say go to the mirror. And the reason why I say naked, you don't have to do it naked, but the best way, this is the best analogy I can give, is the best way to learn to love a vegetable is to eat it raw, right? Like don't just like sugarcoat it with ranch or whatever else, whatever other dip. It's sure it might be better that way. But the best way to relearn something is to be eating it raw and seeing it raw. The best way to relearn how to love yourself is the same exact way, is accepting your body as it is right now. It's going to change. It's going to be different. Your body's not going to be the same in 5 minutes that it was 5 minutes ago. Like, it's not. And so accepting that, standing in front of the mirror and looking at yourself and saying, I love you. And then there's like a series of questions that I always kind of do in the mirror with my coaching clients. Do you mind if I share those?
No, go for it. I would
Okay.
love you to share those.
So if you stand in front of that mirror, a lot of people are like, oh, stand in front of the mirror and do affirmations. Yes, I love affirmations, but not yet. Because your body and your brain will not believe that. And your spirit, your spirit's probably going to believe that, but there's going to be a huge disconnect. So you have to relearn a little bit of that acceptance. So say, I love you. That's the first thing in the mirror. The next thing is you say your name. So I would say, Sara, I am proud of you for. And then you say what you're proud of yourself for. The next one is, Sara, I forgive you for. A lot of self-acceptance is actually a lot of self-forgiveness. We don't forgive ourselves enough because we hold on to that shame and guilt that we have, whether it be mom guilt, whether it be shame and guilt we've held on from our whole life. But that's what you want to acknowledge. I forgive you for. And then you make a promise to yourself. Sara, I commit to you that. Sara, I commit to you that I will start drinking more water. Something so simple, right? That commitment is that self-care to let your body and your mind know, hey, I love you enough to start caring for you better. So those are some of the phrases, I guess, you can start with in front of the mirror.
That's amazing. It's actually not weird to me. It may be weird to some people. I
Yeah.
have given that advice to
Yeah.
a couple of people in my community. And it's funny too, because it's funny you say this might be weird, because I tell them, I'm like, listen, this is going to be weird.
Yes.
You are not going to want to do this. It's going to be very uncomfortable. And I'm like, you have got to like, what do
Lock
we say
eyes.
is one of the most important things in communicating with people, right? Is eye contact,
Mhm.
right? You have got to maintain, and most of the cases with self-esteem and self-confidence is you can't look people in the eye. That is a big thing. So, and it's uncomfortable. So you have to train yourself and work those muscles to do it. So when I say go look in the mirror and look yourself in the eye, it's going to be uncomfortable. You've got
Yes.
to work those muscles and get past it until it's not uncomfortable anymore.
Right.
But I love these additions. These are so good, because that's what I'm really, 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 really want, is not just these ladies or these listeners, not people just saying affirmations, like I want you to say things to yourself and believe it.
Yep.
Believe it, and also it's like making commitments to yourself and not breaking those commitments, right? Like, why is it so easy for us to know, okay, at this time I have to be at this place, at this I have a appointment? You would never upset your hairdresser, right? But can we keep any appointments for ourselves? Like, no, forget about it.
Right.
Like, you break all of these promises to yourself, so of course you don't trust yourself, right? It's like, if you can imagine, this just came to me, this might be so weird, so pull me back if it goes too far. Imagine there's you and subconscious you, but it's two people, right? And it's the relationship that these two people have with each other. And it's like, no, I'm not going to do what I said I'm going to do. No, I'm not going to feed you the way I should feed you. No, it's abuse.
Yep.
It is literally abuse. You are abusing yourself.
Yep.
Okay, would you ever treat another human being? So imagine now it's a different human being. No, I'm not going to show up to that lunch we scheduled together. No, I'm not going to say nice things to you. Right?
Yeah. No,
You
we
would
we
never.
don't want to do that. No. And Um, this is like that's perfect actually, and that's not like strange at all by any means. To me, it's not because that's like parts
I'm
work
like,
to a
separate
degree.
yourself into
Yeah,
two people. I just
yeah,
imagined a Gina like slipping out of myself and turning into a new person.
yeah. No, it's not weird at all because like you have to. Like that's the thing. We look at it. I mean, we how many times have we heard like, "Oh, love yourself, love yourself, love yourself," right? But we don't actually understand what that means. And you said this so perfect. You're breaking trust with yourself. But guess what, you guys? Trust is the foundation of love, period. Trust is the foundation of love in your marital relationship, in a friendship. If you don't have that trust, you're not going to have a good relationship with that person. And like I'm going to give two examples. It's as simple as this, even in our relationship with my spouse, right? If I ask him to take out the trash and he doesn't take out the trash, there's a piece of trust that has been broken. Okay? Even if you don't think about it, that subconscious piece that Gina was just talking about thinks about it. Like that's literally what happens. But it is the exact same thing with us, with the relationship we have with ourselves. If we say we're going to do something and we aren't able to follow through with it, you're breaking that trust and your body's not building that trust in you. And your brain is being like, yeah, she's not going to do it this time. Like, we're going to see. So, no, we want to start building that trust because that trust is that foundation of love. And yes, we have the self acceptance and the self care, and that's like the timeline. But then the true foundation is that trust. Are you going to say what you commit to? Are you going to follow through with that? If you say you're going to do your makeup today because you haven't done it in a week, follow through with that. If you say you want to go to the gym in the morning, no matter what time you go to bed, go to the gym because your future self's going to thank you for that. Like, do right now what your future self is going to thank you for because that's how it's going to build trust.
Yeah, I love that. That's actually hilarious that you said that because it was on an episode of Anatomy of Us, Seth and Melanie Studley, and they talked about that. They talked about that philosophy of breaking trust with your partner, right?
Yeah.
And he used that analogy actually because it was bringing the trash cans up to the house from the road, right? And he sat there and they were talking about it, and I'm like, dang it, because Rick will ask me to do things and I just think of them as dumb things. Like, at the time when I heard this episode, it was, can you grab my checks from the office and bring them home? And so I'll be driving home and he's like, did you grab my checks? And I'm like, duh, no, but I'll get them tomorrow. Right. I'll get them tomorrow. And he got so mad. And I'm like, do we need them deposited? Like, okay, it doesn't matter. I'll do it tomorrow. And he's like, you never do what you say you're going to do. And that's what matters. And I'm like, son of,
Yeah.
dang it.
Like a
it
little
was like,
dagger.
same day. And so I I heard that episode and I was like, okay, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll try
So
better.
important. So important.
But it does. It seems like it's such a silly thing. It seems like because it doesn't matter to me, it shouldn't matter to him or, whatever. So start thinking about that now. Okay. In regards to, we're working on marriage as well. We're working on relationships with our kids as well and our bonds category, whatever. But think about this. This is the bonds category. This isn't just for us. Sorry, we have our categories and they're beliefs, bonds, body, and biz. Yeah. And it's like, this isn't just beliefs. This is not just beliefs. This was an aha moment. I just had it. This is bonds because you have to build that relationship with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Boom.
100%. Boom, boom, boom.
Boom. Okay. Well, where do we want to go from here?
Wherever.
Like I said, I'm a bridge person, and just from meeting you and getting to talk to you, like I already have two people that I'm like, oh, you need to meet these people. You guys need to. You are totally going to be all about good stuff, making really, really good stuff happen.
I love it.
So what got you into? How did you get from? Because look at your journey. You have gone from, you're like win, 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 from being in this dark place.
Yep.
coming through it to the total swing of the pendulum
Hmm.
to life coach, helping others. You have really cemented your own foundation here because you
Yeah.
couldn't have done that with being able to help other people. You can't help other people if you're already not
No,
in a
no.
good place. So, where did your journey start with that?
It started with writing my book, honestly.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
Yeah,
that's
I
right.
felt like I couldn't, so my therapist was the one who actually suggested life coaching. Because I told her, I was like, I do not want to do therapy. There's too many rules that I have to follow, and I'm not much of a rule follower. Like gonna do what I want, what I feel. I'm gonna follow my gut, all that stuff. And so she said, "Well, what about life coaching?" And I was like, "What is life coaching?" And she introduced it to me, and she was a little bit of a mentor for me. And then that's kind of when I got certified, did a few different coaching programs and a lot of different courses and modules to give me the modalities that I was like, yes, this would help. And then kind of tying in a little bit. My book is, and I want to clarify this. So I worked with two therapists in my book, and all of the exercises that are in my book are the exercises that I did in therapy. And so those are just the basic things because I ordered, and I can even like pull them out, but I ordered 3 to 4 books during my postpartum period. I did not even open them because they were too overwhelming for me.
Mm.
I was like,
Yes.
absolutely not. I cannot read this. I will not go to this. This is not going to help me. And so that was another reason I wanted it to be simple. I wanted it to be something you didn't have to work cover to cover. Like you can just go be like, okay, I'm having mom guilt. I'm going to go to the mom guilt chapter. I'm having problems with boundaries. I'm going to go to boundaries. So you can go where you are needing to go. You don't have to work through the whole thing. Um, and so that's kind of where the book was transpired. Okay. So like, that's why I know it is a self-help workbook and it will actually help you get on your feet. And then that's when you make that choice and courageous decision to do something different and to get more help. I do want to clarify though, hi, I am a human being and I still struggle and go through the depths. And I had a miscarriage in June. Of course, we're pregnant again, and I'm so grateful for this rainbow baby. But that's where when you start to heal and truly heal, then you're going to find ways to turn that pain into purpose. And that's kind of my whole model is, okay, I'm going through a really sucky time right now, but how can I turn this pain into purpose for myself, for other people? Because I believe what we go through is actually for other people, not just for us, not just to sit in the suck of it all. Yes, we need to sit there for a minute and be uncomfortable, but then that growth is going to happen if we let it. And so like I always say, like, people are like, oh my gosh, Sarah, like you're amazing, and I'm so grateful for this and that. And I just say, like, I'm a wounded healer too. Like, I'm wounded in what I'm doing, but I'm still doing it and I'm still willing to show up because that's what I want to do, and that's why I'm choosing to turn all of this pain into purpose. And right, my husband and I still fight and argue, and there are days where I hate being a mom still, and I just want to not be with kids. Like, no, I am not perfect by any means. I know none of us are, but it's what we do with our circumstances, how we act based off of our circumstances, because they don't define who you are. You define who you are, and you get to choose who you are in those
I
moments.
I think the secret to an absolutely truly truly happy and full life is emotional resilience.
Yep.
It's not just being happy all the time because you got to have valleys to appreciate the peaks, right?
Mhm.
So, or like the philosophy of breaking something to be able to make it stronger, right? You have to break, sometimes you have to break bones to make them heal better or
Yep.
more properly. So, I think the secret to happiness is emotional resilience and knowing that, trusting yourself that, oh man, this is going to suck. I know this is going to suck. And when I'm in it, it's going to suck,
Hmm.
but I know I'm going to be able to come out of it. And I
Yes.
know I'm going to come out of it even stronger because now I've learned from it, right?
Yes.
So,
I'm going to share one thing.
yeah.
Okay. So this is I'm sure some have maybe heard this, but the power of the word and. Have you heard that phrase?
No,
So
huh?
like, okay, so I'm just gonna fix this phrase for just a minute because you said I'm gonna sit in this suck, but I also know I'm gonna get out of it. Wording and reframing this is gonna help so much of your thought process and how you approach things is I'm sitting in this suck and I know I'm gonna get out of it.
Oh yeah, the
Like,
but is the
yeah,
negative
you
and
just,
is the positive.
yep, you switch it. But all using the word but always has like a negative connotation to it. When we replace it with and I'm not very good at this all the time, but when we replace it with and, then that is when there's more hope. I feel like that word and gives more hope than but I'm going to be sad,
It
you
sounds
know?
that way. When you
Yeah.
say it, it sounds it. That
Yeah.
it sounds it.
Sounds it.
It
Yes.
sounds it. No,
Yeah.
when you say it, you really can hear the difference. I
Mhm.
do things like that, like as joking, but not, but serious with my ladies. Sometimes I'll say something, be like, can you hear the difference? Like da 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 versus
Yeah.
da da da, right? You can hear the difference. I love that. And you literally could just hear the difference. And was an up and
Hmm.
but was a down.
Yep. It like
That's
there's just like no
super
hope
cool.
when you phrase it that way. Obviously, I'm not perfect, but when I can like spot it, I'm like, yes, that's and you can be sad and happy at the same time and experience that and have that emotional resilience like you're talking about. You can have self-doubt and self-acceptance at the same time. You can have self-love and a little bit of self-betrayal at the same time. Like they do coexist. Those can coexist together and it's that acceptance of allowing them to that's actually going to help.
That's so cool. That's super cool. I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start trying that. I'm going to have a elastic on my wrist, and every time I say "but," I'm going to slap it.
Yeah, the
I'm going
power
to
of the
work
word
it.
and
I'm
so
going to
powerful.
work it out of my vocabulary. It's actually funny that you said that because in a lot of my fights with my husband, is he'll tell me something that he's trying to be helpful with, and I'll say, "Okay, okay, but."
But yeah. No,
So it's actually
literally,
funny. I say
literally.
that word a lot.
Yes, yes,
I'm doing that,
100%.
but okay.
Uh-huh.
So tell me about your sound baths, your night, they're called a night of stillness, because this is actually how I found you. So my sister-in-law came to one of these, and
Okay.
I will tell you, everyone, listeners, because especially I guess my community from some comments I've had on certain episodes, I guess, is a little bit more conservative, obviously, but to the point that I did think when I heard the word sound bath before I went to one, it was
Yep.
woo woo. And I was
Mhm.
like, okay, no. Like when you talk about tapping, when you talk about breath work, when you talk, it's like, okay, that's just woo woo, right? And we are in Southern Utah. We are in this
Yeah.
culture of hunting, fishing, like we are,
Uh-huh.
tough men.
Yeah.
But I went to one and it was amazing. Talk
Hmm.
about connecting with yourself because you're just laying there in the stillness. And guess what? Some people cannot do that. Talk about not even being able to stand in front of a mirror naked and look in your eyes. Some people actually cannot physically just sit still with no phone, no sound, no entertainment, nothing. You can't even sit still for 1 minute, 60 seconds. Everybody try this after this episode, okay? Turn everything off and sit and don't do a thing for 1 minute. Set a timer and see how uncomfortable you are. Because in this age of overstimulation and constant need for having your attention to something, right? Um, so anyway, it was a very beautiful thing. And that's what was funny is my sister-in-law, same thing. She's one of these people raised on the farm, raised animals, whatever, hard work. We don't need to go to a sound bath. We don't need to meditate. We don't,
Yep.
right? That's very woo woo. And she's like, it was so wild. It was so beautiful. It was so amazing.
Hmm.
I loved it. Right. So
Good.
talk to me about your night of stillness.
Okay, so night of stillness, and I am going to kind of tag on to what you just said. A lot of people have a hard time with stillness, not because they have ADHD, not because of ADD, but because they fear what is going to come up if they're still. And that's kind of why I even wanted to call it a night of stillness. So, I had that thought honestly years ago to do something night of stillness because people need stillness. We really do. And I don't think we truly understand the definition of stillness because it's like, okay, we can sit still, but stillness is connecting your mind, your body, and your spirit and having a way to actually bridge those gaps because we are overstimulated, because we get so overwhelmed with stuff. And so these nights of stillness that we do, and I actually do them with a friend sometimes, I do them with my husband sometimes, or just for women, right, by myself. So it kind of depends on what I'm feeling like is needed. But at these nights of stillness, we do activities and exercises that will help bridge your mind, your body, and your spirit together. There's a lot of life coaches that focus solely on the mind and working through your thoughts and all of that, which is incredible and it's great work. But if you do not connect with your body and your spirit, there's not going to be lasting change that takes place. And so these nights of stillness allow that energy to actually penetrate basically in your soul. And how I want to word this is because I also was that way. Like I literally thought when somebody shared what meditation was, I thought you had to sit with your arms like, you know, in like a little position, like off the Lion King. And I'm like, no way am I meditating like that. Like that is so stupid. I'm not doing that. But again, I was doing something different than I normally have to get a different result. And I realized meditation is simply just going into you, going inward into who you are, into yourself, and connecting to your spirit. And that's what that stillness is when we can finally connect to our spirit. That's where that stillness can actually take place. And so at these nights of stillness, sometimes we will dance and move our body. I believe our body holds things better than our mind does. And so energetically, you may not remember something that has happened in your brain, but your body will actually remember it. And so you have to have a release within your body in order for more change and healing to take place. It's not just mind work. It's not just body work. It's not just spirit work. It's all of it together. And when you can accept that, then that's where, you know, true healing can take place. So we have sound bowls. I'll just kind of briefly explain. So sound bowls basically give the energetic vibration that aligns with the energy in your body. We are all energy beings. God is light. God is energy as well. God is a energy. I also believe that like God is a human being. Okay. That's just my own personal belief. But it's very spiritual. Like this work can be very spiritual if you allow it to be. And so that the sound bowls will help your body's energetic system to release without you having to do a lot of work. And then we can do mind work, mindset work. We do a lot of, not a lot of physical movement. It honestly depends. Like sometimes we might like shake out our bodies or do a dance or just do yoga, something that will help our bodies to release even more. We'll do breath work. Breath work is the number one way to tap into your subconscious mind without overworking it. Breath work is the number one thing that we do consciously and subconsciously. There's nothing else in our physical body that happens that way. Because I can tell you to breathe and you can breathe, or I can tell you not to think about breathing and you're still breathing. Makes sense? So your breath is going to be something that's very, very healing for you. So a lot of breath work. And then a lot of just that forgiveness for yourself and showing up in that self-acceptance, self-care, self-love. Most of our nights of stillness, people will walk away with knowing what their next steps are to help them become who they want to be. And so that's kind of a night of stillness. It just is like a sneak peek into my course a little bit, what I offer in my course, what it would be like to do coaching with me, and then even the retreats. So it's just a mini night for people to connect with themselves and take that time because we don't do it enough.
Do you know that's so sad as I'm sitting here sad? Good. Great. I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I should invite, okay, me, Trish, and Amy. We'll go up and we'll do that. That'll be fun one night. And we should probably call Trina. We should probably call, like, I'm going through my head and I'm like, okay, yeah, that would be great. I'm like, oh, I could have a whole group already. Like,
Yep.
like,
Listen, I will come to you if you have a group of people, like
oh,
I will
yay.
come. I literally will come to you and do
When
it.
we get
And
off of this, actually, I was already thinking about it. You need to see our property in Apple Valley. It's
okay.
insane. It's literally on top of a mountain.
Yes.
So the Canaan Mountains are all around it. So our 40 acres is basically a mountain and our cabin is at the top of it. And how amazing would that be on the deck out there in that?
Incredible.
It would be
Incredible. I'm
amazing.
in.
So we need to talk about that later.
Totally in.
So thank you so much. Oh my gosh, this was so good. You are so amazing. We're
Thank
definitely going
you.
to have to get together on some things and work on some other things, but I really appreciate you being here. And my listeners, okay, so you've got your link tree in your Instagram.
Mhm.
Is that the best way for them to find you? Because that's got everything there, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yep. The
diamonds in
majority.
the rough.
Yep. The majority of everything is there. So that's fine. And always
Amazing.
feel free to message me, you guys. I will always, always answer my messages. So message me on Instagram, talk to me. Like, I want to be your friend. That's the thing. I want to be your friend and help you. I'm just so passionate about it. So
I love that.
yeah.
The beginning of my podcast is I hope I am your newest friend.
Yes.
like, please, I just want to be everybody's friend, please.
Yep. Yep.
I love it. Well, ladies, anybody who's been thinking about the retreat, I've been trying to talk Sarah into coming, but she is going to be having a baby soon.
You know, I'm
And
sorry.
so that's kind of on the, we'll just keep that on the maybe list, should we?
Yeah. Okay. Remind me the dates though. When is it?
May 18th through the 21st.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be like a month postpartum, so
Yeah.
maybe.
Well,
Yeah.
sometimes we still, it's true. We still got to fill it out. Once it
Yep.
happens, we got to fill it out
Yeah.
and then make sure we're okay.
So keep me on the maybe list, and
I
not if
will.
it's
I'm
not this
keeping you
one,
on the maybe list.
then it will be
It will
another
be
one.
the next one.
Yes.
So amazing. Thank you so much for joining me.
You are so welcome. Thank you. Thank you.